So
Maybe we could go to John Murphy in the meantime.
sure, we can do that and come back. And if he's not here by then, we can cover it for him.
Sounds good. Hi, John.
Good morning, everyone. How are you today?
Well, thank you.
Good, good. Well, not a tremendous amount to report this month. We're just chugging along, sliding into winter usage patterns. Demands come down quite a bit. We did have some snow early, about back in October, but nothing since. So you see, I added some snowtail graphs kind of to this report, sort of the first ones of the year, and we had a little blip there. But that's flattened out now. If you look now at the snowtail sites, that because there hasn't really been anything significant since then. So, but I keep hearing about this El Nino coming, so we'll see what happens this year. It could be a good year. Sometimes doesn't mean anything. So, but other than that, we are chugging along. One thing I did want to draw your attention to is on page 9 of 74 in the packet. That's the page with the seasonal drought outlook on it. And none of this stuff seems to have changed as far as the weather outlooks and stuff, drought outlooks go. But in that storage paragraph, you'll notice that I mentioned we have this project going on, a dam removal at Lake George, and it's a joint project, multiple entities, and it requires the cooperation of Denver and Aurora to keep the flow in the river very low while they're in there doing the construction. And so we're not able to release what we would normally release to ourselves from Spinney to Strontia just to meet demand and fill Aurora Reservoir and stuff like that. So we're doing kind of a swap with Denver. They're providing the water that we need at Strontia for us from their supplies, and we're basically marking what that same amount of water that we would have released from Spinney in Spinney. So Spinney is sort of artificially inflated a little bit in the overall storage. And so rather than trying to subtract all that out of the graphs and everything, I just tried to explain it in here. So when you're looking at Spinney storage as of the 31st of October, there was about 4,300 acre feet so far from what we've gotten from Denver at Strontia that we will later on release from Spinney to pay them back. So that's what's going on there. So that's going to carry on all winter. So the storage graphs are going to be a little higher than they would normally be because of that, but I'll update it with the amount each month that we're accumulating in that. I guess I hesitate to say debt, but we're basically borrowing water from Denver that we're storing in Spinney that we'll pay them back come May. So
Good. It's good to hear about municipalities working together in cooperation like that. Any questions for John?
Yeah, I'm confused.
That's
Go ahead,
okay.
Councilmember Bergan.
So we're storing, we have extra water in Spinney, but we had to borrow from Denver for Strontia. And why is that?
So the project, where they're taking out this dam is below 11 Mile Reservoir at Lake George.
Oh.
And so they have to keep the flow in the river very low for them to go in and do that construction work. And so the flow out of 11 Mile Reservoir that basically creates what the river looks like below 11 Mile is primarily the result of what we're releasing from Spinney, because Denver tends to keep 11 Mile pretty much full.
Okay.
And so whatever we're releasing from Spinney goes through 11 Mile Reservoir and becomes basically what the river is, other than the sort of the natural flow, which is pretty low this time of year. So normally we would be trying to fill up Aurora Reservoir and meeting our own demand and stuff like that. And we would be releasing from Spinney however much water we needed to have at Strontia to do that. But we're limited in what we can release at Spinney because of this construction project. So think of it like this. The amount of water that we would release but can't, Denver's giving us that at Strontia.
Gotcha.
So it's still in Spinney. It's would have been released, but it's still there.
Okay,
Basically.
makes sense. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
John, anything else for John? Appreciate it, John. And then I see Sweerveen in there. He was one of the sharpest dressed people at A-List. What do you have for us, Sweerveen, for construction change order reports?
Okay, so thank you so much for that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I'm in Sarah's office because I was having some technical difficulties in my office. So for the change order report this month, I really have one change order to report, and this project is actually SC2 and SC5 is actually two sewer segments that we had to replace, and the SC just represents the drainage basin. So that's Sand Creek Basin project number 2 and Sand Creek Basin project number 5. And these are located on Ouray Way and Union Ave. The issues we were having there is that the pipelines had a minimal slope to them. So we were having backup issues and, that kind of thing. So there was a lot of maintenance requirements to go clean them and do all that. So we instituted a project to kind of relay these pipes to increase their capacity. So that's what this project did. Now, when we went out there and actually dug up the pipes, we found that the subsurface wasn't ideal. So we had to remove more of the trench than we had anticipated. So our first thing is we coordinated with Public Works, and basically they paid for the extra to do more than we would have done if we were just replacing our pipelines. So this 80,000 is really for asphalt and restoring a wider trench than we had originally anticipated. So you can see that it represents only about 1% of the project and of the original project cost. And our change orders to date are still at less than 1% for the entire program. So do you have any questions for me?
Questions? I was curious, you had to replace some pipe that was not originally laid down at a proper slope?
Okay, I would say it was currently not at the proper slope because originally it may have been laid down at the proper slope, but then there was settling that happened and movement of the soil. So that's why even the trench was unstable. So there may have been other factors that post the original installation that caused all this.
I see. Thank you. Well, thank you for the update, Sweervine. Appreciate it. And moving on to Alex on item number 3 for a reusable raw water intergovernment agreement amendment. Oh, I think you're muted.
Yes, I'm so sorry. I did not have that up. I did not see where I was on the agenda. So let me just pull that up really quickly.
Well, you're fine.
Okay. Do you want to go to the next item and come back to me? That might, I don't want to hold
Sure.
everyone up. I know you're very efficient.
If Sarah is ready for the full and wider sanitary reimbursement agreement.
Yeah, and that's if Daniel is ready for the full and wider. So Daniel Pershing has been here before to talk about, he's helping us manage our reimbursement agreements and working with the development community, and has been really helpful in all that space. So Daniel's actually going to present on this agreement that he's been helping us negotiate.
Okay.
Thank you, Sarah. Let me know when everyone can see my screen.
We can see your screen, Daniel, but you're a little bit hard to hear.
Okay, I'll try to speak up a little bit. Is that any
There you
better?
go. Thank
Yes.
you.
Perfect. Okay, so this reimbursement agreement is for the full and wider master plan development. What I have up now is their master utility study for how they intended to provide sanitary service. And the reimbursement agreement that we entered into is for this segment along Second Creek. So for their on-site needs, they needed a combination of 8-inch, 12-inch, and 15-inch pipes to serve their site. Our wastewater master plan required a 30-inch pipe for this corridor along Second Creek to serve the regional needs of the city. And so we went into a reimbursement agreement with them. Exhibit A kind of simplifies it a little bit. So this shows the limits of the reimbursement agreement that we entered into them with. So down here is 56th Avenue, and it goes all the way up along Second Creek to the existing Second Creek lift station. So the way we kind of calculated it is, again, for that upsize, and the way we asked the developer to bid it out was give us a cost for as if you were installing the 30-inch, and then give us a cost as if you were installing the 8, 12, and 15-inch pipes. And then we'll pay for the difference in those two bid estimates. And so that's what this Excel document is kind of doing is, so the 30-inch install was about 5.3 million. The equivalent 8, 12, and this should be 15-inch pipe is 3.5 million. And so the difference between those two was 1.8 million for the estimate on the install. The pipeline has been installed and accepted by Aurora Water. And so the developer followed up with us to give us the actual costs, and they went down, which is great. So we have an actual cost of install for 1.749 million, and that's what's reflected on the reimbursement agreement itself. Any questions on that?
It's for Daniel. Okay, please proceed, Daniel.
All right, so Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, but the question is if you would support moving this to a regular session for council, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any opposition to moving this forward?
None from me.
It moves forward.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, everybody.
And Alex.
Yes, thank you. Sorry about that. So
Oh, you're
this
fine.
is a very simple lease agreement, and in fact, it would be one that normally Marshall and his authority could simply sign off on, but because it is an IGA, an intergovernmental agreement, and all intergovernmental agreements must become to council, it's before you. So we already have an agreement with Metro Water Recovery to supply them raw water, reusable raw water for non-potable irrigation of their northern treatment plant grounds. And they've discovered that they need a little bit more than they thought. Oh, where does that come from? Than they thought for their irrigation going forward. So they've asked us to increase the amount available from 45 to 100 acre feet annually, or up to 100 acre feet annually. The price of the water goes up on a regular basis. The 2024 price is $622 per acre foot. And this is simply an agreement where they could access up to 100 acre feet for irrigation of their grounds at the Northern Water Plant, treatment plant.
Hey,
And the request is that you move it on to council for full council approval.
any questions first? Concerns? All right, anyone opposed to moving this forward? It
Nope.
moves forward. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
And then to number 5, Rick, land management plan and for the Rocky Forward lands presentation. Rocky Ford, isn't that where
Sure.
good cantaloupes come from?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
So I'm going to share my screen with my presentation here. And just let me know when you can see that.
Yes, see it.
Okay, so this is just an informational something we're bringing before you as informational. We've just completed our new land management plan for the Arkansas Valley Range project down here in the southeastern part of the state, Rocky Ford area. So here is a map of what you're all familiar with, I'm sure. And the circle in this area is where these lands that this land management plan is located in relation to our system. So to give you just a little bit of background on the Arkansas Valley Range project, it is where the Rocky Ford offices are located, and it's lands that were purchased years ago. So in 1989, City of Aurora purchased 58% of the Rocky Ford ditch, so a little over half of the ditch, and 4,100 acres to be exact on the property that is owned by Aurora through that sale. We have revegetation decrees, revegetation requirements by court decree, and those were completed or considered completed in 2001, although we had retained jurisdiction for and oversight by the courts until 2021. So another 20 years beyond that. And that was the first part of the Rocky Ford ditch that that is a part of these lands that this land management plan deals with. The second part was for another 2,800 acres that is not owned by Aurora, but Aurora holds oversight to them. So these lands are brought Aurora's ownership of the Rocky Ford ditch up to about 95%, and within that 95%, we have 900 acres that are still under a continued farming program, continuing to be farmed. Aurora gives a little bit of water back to those farmers, and Aurora has provided some irrigation, improved irrigation efficiency means to them, and so that is part of those lands. It's part of this plan, but for the most part, this plan deals with the revegetation of both of those lands. The second half of those lands were considered successfully revegetated in 2011, and those lands were passed at that time, and then we still have another 20 years based on that. So 2031, retained jurisdiction will go away on those lands. But the land management responsibility of both of these lands are what we're dealing with in this land management plan. This is a map, close-up map of that ditch. The red indicates the ditch, the lands underneath that ditch that are part of the focus of this land management plan. Basically, you see the line here, that's Highway 50, that kind of divides that land, and the city of Rocky Ford is right here. The ditch actually goes right through Rocky Ford, and these lands are, for the most part, the second part are the southern parts of this map, and the north and further west parts are the beginning parts of that. So as you can see, there still is, it is one of 8 ditches in the Arkansas, lower Arkansas basin. And so, and actually it's one of 8 ditches in this area. There are many ditches below this as well as you go on towards John Martin and towards Kansas, but 8 ditches in this area. So it's not the majority part of the farming down here, but it is a little chunk of land here that we're dealing with. So Anyway, in this land management plan, our mission statement was, our mission as we came up with it was to sustainably manage lands that Aurora has decreed responsibility for, that have been revegetated or are under the Rocky Ford ditch, while allowing for multiple uses now and in the future. And so that was our mission statements. That is where we started. We wanted to make sure that these lands down here were a shining a part of what Aurora has done down in the lower Arkansas Basin. And so this is where we started with that land management plan. And some of the things that were in our vision statement were, as we move forward, we wanted to be able to protect and prevent soil erosion. We wanted to make sure that we controlled the weeds and the controlled the vegetation on that on those lands, both the good vegetation and the bad, but we wanted to be able to control the weeds. We wanted it to be sustainably producing forage for livestock, and we wanted it to be a place for native wildlife to grow and populate, opportunity for biodiversity of the soil. And then part of this land management plan is to make sure that we address educational opportunities and partnerships going forward, not only just with revegetation, but any other opportunities that may come along in ideas that we can partner with the community down here in the Rocky Ford area. So as this plan evolved and when we came to the end of it, we wanted to be able to understand why we were making decisions on these revegetated lands. We wanted to really understand the grazing aspect of these lands, because 4,100 acres of those lands are Aurora lands, and we lease those to a cow-calf operation. And so we wanted to understand how to do that in a very sustainable and responsible way. So we also know the changing climate, and we wanted to be able to understand the issues of weather events, and as climate changed, we wanted to be able to adapt to those issues as well. And one of the most important parts of this is community relations and education. Some of these lands Aurora does not own, and so we needed to be able to look back and leave the owners of those lands that Aurora has revegetated, leave them with good planning tools, with a good knowledge of how to sustain these formerly irrigated lands in a native grassland way. And this management plan also gave us a list of tools that would help us to evaluate potential projects. We are constantly getting project ideas from neighbors, from the county, from community groups that talk about ways we can partner with them on these projects and put this land to a community use. And so we have a list of criteria that makes sure that we don't do something that is going to damage these lands or make them revert to a lesser quality of revegetation. We wanted to make sure that we were sustainable in anything moving forward was sustainable. So These are some of the tools that we do use. Like I said, we have a lease on 4,100 acres of these lands, a cow-calf operation. We graze 200 units on these lands. It's a cow and a calf together, and so there's constant grazing going on, and that grazing is a management tool that we use not only to control weeds, but also to proliferate and help the health of those lands just by the way that it's done. We use heavy grazing for short periods of time, and then we let the land rest and we keep them off. And so there's a lot of fencing, there's a lot of movement of cows, and there's a lot of management that goes into that grazing operation. We also apply some herbicides, and we do a lot of mowing to control weeds and to control what goes on those. I mean, to control how those lands look and how they are are protected. We also have a lot of wildlife on these lands. It's a unique land. It goes along the river, so there is some riverfront and some just adjacent to riverfront property. So we have a lot of livestock, elk, bear, deer, mountain lions, turkeys, coyotes, prairie dogs, a lot of different wildlife that we have committed into this plan and are trying to maintain this habitat for this wildlife. We also have to deal with wildfire and drought. So those two go hand in hand. As it gets drier, wildfire is a higher danger, and we have to make sure that is foremost in our minds and how we approach any kind of management with regards to what we allow on these lands to make sure that we're not putting it in danger. And then another tool was our community relations tool, which gives us a list of criteria for anything going forward. Just to highlight the grazing part of this, because that is a big part of this management plan. As I said, 4,100 acres, but on those acres, we have 23 water corrals, and those water corrals feed 88 pastures. So each one of those water corrals have between 3 and 5 pastures coming off of them. And we rotate the units through those pastures, and then we let those pastures rest, and then we go back and reevaluate. And when we can allow them back on, and when those lands are sufficiently rested, we put them back on. And sometimes it's once a year, sometimes it's skip a year on a pasture, and sometimes we can do it multiple times in a year, depending on the rainfall really that some of these lands get. If you remember, 2001 is when much of this 4,100 acres that we're leasing out, 2001 is the last year these lands got any kind of irrigation. All that's sustaining them is 7 to 14 inches of rain every year, and so we don't get a whole lot of rain down here, and so we have to keep a close eye on how we graze these lands. So that is really our plan. It is going to be a great tool for us. The Lower Arkansas Basin is a long-term investment for the city of Aurora. We have lands down here that we're responsible for, and when people drive by those lands, they think of people in Aurora. They think of people that are drinking the water that came from down here, and we try to make sure that those lands are show a responsible Aurora, show a responsible land management, and a responsible neighbor and partner for the people down here. Management is really what has turned what the Arkansas Valley Range Project has turned to. Instead of focusing on revegetation, we are now focused on management of those revegetated lands. And so we have to manage all of these different inputs and all of these different uses for these lands and for maintaining what these lands are, how we want these lands to look, and how we want them to be going forward. These lands still do provide agriculture benefits to the community, and we're providing educational benefits to the community as well, with tours, with school groups, looking at these on an annual basis, with just people being able to drive by and see the wildlife and the grasslands the way they were, or the way we envisioned that they were many years ago, 150 years ago. So that's my report, and that's my report on this land management plan. I would take any questions if there are any.
Questions for Rick?
And may I just add, Councilman
Please.
Sundberg, that I just want to give Rick and his team a lot of kudos. This, the reason that office was created was to develop this relationship with the community, where we have acquired significant water rights that are critical to the city of Aurora. And that relationship has turned around from what it was in the 80s and 90s because of things, because of the way that team addresses things like land. So you've all heard about Crowley County as the poster child for what bad buy and dry looks like. And this is the poster child for what good buy and dry looks like. And in fact, Rick's team was given great accolades by the Lower Arkansas River Water Conservation District, who was doing a study on how they could make sure that all lands dried up were revegetated in a way that really worked for the community and worked for the environment and worked for the landscape. And they said Aurora has done a gold standard job, and they hold up these lands. So looking into the future as to how they're going to continue to be managed and what that's going to look like is really critical for the city's operations in the Arkansas Valley. And it's just great that we have a team that's doing such a good job out there right now. And this plan will help perpetuate that good job.
It's a nice job, Rick. Sounds like an area very rich in ecological resources. Very important. Yeah.
Very much so. Yes.
Thank you. Any miscellaneous matters for consideration? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Bergan.
Just, so when this was done back in whatever, 1989, the farmers that were farming the land were not able to continue, I guess, wasn't it that they weren't able to irrigate effectively and they were losing money? Is that, or am I off on that?
Well, that first purchase was done actually when American Crystal was going out of business or was changing their operations. And so Aurora's first purchase was through an investment group that had purchased the American Crystal and the sugar beet lands that were in production down here and that were going out of production. So that was the first purchase. The second purchase was from individual farmers that were struggling at that time and were trying to adapt to different things, different weather changes and different water challenges, and so brought the second purchase to Aurora, and Aurora stepped into that.
And since we leased some of the land, I guess what I'm getting at is obviously there was not, it was a beneficial agreement for all parties. Whereas I think some might look at it like, oh, you know, or City of Aurora just acquired all these water rights and took away water rights from the farmers, but that wasn't the situation.
And if I might, Rick, Councilwoman Bergan, you are absolutely correct. It was beneficial to the farmers, and all of our acquisitions are willing sellers who want to sell to us. And that does not prevent others from saying that, you know, we pushed in, or we're taking their water, or we're somehow sort of putting a connotation that there was, you know, that it was inappropriate in some way. But you're absolutely right. And in our videos that we sometimes show on the water tour, I don't think can't remember if we did it this year, we interview one of the farmers who talks about what a relief it was to sell his land. What a relief it was for him to be able to not wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and be worried about, is it going to hail? Is my crop going to be successful? And how it was a wonderful thing for him to be able to sell to Aurora. And he continues to work on the Rocky Ford Ditch Company. So he has had continued employment because of our operations. So you're right. And it's a great thing to remind people of, that this was a good deal for the people that we buy from. And there are still people who will criticize it no matter what.
Right. Exactly. Thank you.
A question about the water we acquire from there, is that we bring it to us in a complicated manner, or do we trade it off with another municipality? How does that work?
Yeah, it is a complicated manner. We do it through a series of exchanges and through a decree that allows us to capture that water in Pueblo Reservoir now. So we're bringing some of it down to the Rocky Ford Ditch area, but we're also bringing some of it just by exchange from Pueblo Reservoir.
Okay. Thank you, Rick. Any other questions or comments for Rick? Okay, thank you. Miscellaneous matters for consideration, anyone? Is there any water topic you would like to bring to a meeting and learn more about? Can you think of anything? Well, think about it and let us know.
Just PFAS.
PFAS, an update on PFAS?
I had
Okay.
a question from a constituent and reached out to Marshall. He gave me a lot of good information, but I don't know if it's just getting out there in the media. And so people are now wondering, like this particular constituent thought we were never even treating PFAS. So just had to educate that we have been, and it's just now a matter of new regulations on the levels detected.
I was surprised as serving on the Cherry Creek Quality Water Basin Authority that there were a number of people that didn't even know what PFAS was, to my surprise. And Councilmember Coombs, if you're ready to take that position over again, you're very welcome to. No, I'm just joking.
We'll see. I think there's a few other ones that I also am going to have to look at for next year.
Yeah, there's only so much you can do, right? But I enjoy
Yeah.
serving on it, actually. But I was surprised at the fact that some of these people from different municipalities were unaware of it. So, okay, our next meeting is going to be on December 20th.
Sorry, Councilmember Sundberg.
Oh, please, yes.
So I was just wondering if we'll have in the coming year, presuming we're all still on this committee, but even if we're not, updates on the investigations that we're doing into direct potable reuse.
The what? I'm sorry?
Direct potable reuse of water.
Oh, who can, Marshall?
Yeah, we can definitely bring an update on what we're doing. The state of Colorado just recently made it possible to permit DPR in Colorado. So we can bring to you guys what we're looking at, why we're looking at it, why it makes sense for us to look at that, and kind of the tentative timeline and schedule that we've got outlined. So we can absolutely bring that one.
Thank you.
Great. Any other miscellaneous thoughts, matters? Okay. Well, we are ending in near record time here, and enjoy your day, everyone. We'll see you on December 20th for our next water meeting. Have a good day.
Oh, wait, sorry.
Now, do you
Yep.
want to have a meeting in December?
Do
Yes,
we
we have
need
one.
to? Is there enough content? Is there needed content to approve?
Casey, do we have any agenda items yet for December?
No.
Yeah, so we do not have agenda items for that meeting. And I'm not aware of anything pressing that we would have to bring in December. If you would like to not have a meeting in December, we can probably figure out how to make that work. That's only 5 days before Christmas where that's scheduled, so.
I would be fine with it. How about you, council members?
I would
That's
be
fine with
totally
me.
fine with that.
Great. Then we'll come together in January with good things to talk about as well.
Perfect.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Happy
Thanks,
Yeah,
holidays,
y'all.
everybody.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
Happy holidays.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.